Sean Callahan, Nate Klaus here for HuskerOnline.com. Nebraska's first Friday Night Lights camp in the books in Memorial Stadium, as Nebraska had about 300 or so campers, 2,200 fans in attendance, Nate, as they kind of work the kinks out here, new staff transitioning, kind of setting things up, and I'm sure next week we're going to see even a bigger and better event.
Yeah, I really do. I think next week's will probably be bigger, and they'll probably change up a few things, tweak a few things. But overall, I mean, for this being the first Friday Night Lights camp under Scott Frost, I think it went fairly well.
And I mentioned 300 guys here, so a lot of guys. We can't talk, obviously, about all 300 of them, but there were definitely a few names to hit on here. Let's first start. Give me a couple offensive names that jumped out to you.
Yeah, well, I think Xavier Betts out of Bellevue West is one for sure. Unfortunately, he went down with an ankle injury, but he was definitely drawing a lot of attention from the coaching staff. Looked pretty good out there before the injury. Trustin Oliver is an interesting kid out of Colorado. Played wide receiver, plays both wide receiver and DB. He's at Legend High School, same high school as Tate Wildeman. Actually, is technically Tate Wildeman's brother too. So he's a kid with Pac-12 offers. Did very well out there, so I think that he's another offensive player that kind of impressed me tonight.
Then when you look at the defensive side of the ball, Nate, obviously a lot of other guys. We saw a few linebackers, a lot of guys you could go with tonight on defense too.
Yeah, a lot of guys. I think you do have to start with the linebackers though. Scott Valentis, at least I think I'm pronouncing the last name right there, out of Wichita, Cape on Mount Carmel linebacker, looked really good tonight. Was getting a lot of attention, a lot of one-on-one attention from Javon DeWitt. I think Luke Reimers is another linebacker from Lincoln North Star that really impressed me. Bryce Cobbins, who actually plays quarterback, 2020 kid out of Las Vegas. Bishop Gorman worked out as a cornerback tonight, did really well. Jaden Russell out of the Kansas City area. A lot of defenders that impressed, but I think Scott Valentis and Luke Reimers were two guys that stood out to me in particular.
And another thing that's kind of fun about these events, Nate, is we get to see a lot of the new 2018 recruits on campus for the first time. And one of those guys that made his inaugural appearance in Lincoln, he literally rolled into town, was junior college transfer Will Jackson. And just off the hoof, Barrett Rude goes, man, he looks like Richard Sherman.
Yeah, he really does. The kid, he's a legit 6'3", 6'3 and a half, and by far and away the biggest cornerback automatically on Nebraska's roster. So he looks the part. We'll get a chance to see what he looks like come fall camp. But I tell you what, the coaches sure looked very happy to have him on campus once he arrived.
A lot of smiles, a lot of handshakes. Any other of those newcomers? Caleb Tanner, holy cow. Like, I knew he was a bigger guy, but he was even leaner and taller than I even thought, just seeing him in person.
Yeah, Caleb Tanner is the guy that stood out. Tate Wildeman, Cam Jones, Cam Taylor is not as tall as you'd think, but boy, he sure is put together well. I mean, honestly, a lot of those newcomers look really good. So it's going to be fun to watch those guys once things really get kicked off here in August.
Well, there'll be a 7-on-7 event Saturday as well as a lineman camp. The next week it will be another Friday Night Lights camp, coinciding with a barbecue event they're going to have with a lot of high-profile recruits at the camp and the barbecue event. So plenty of recruiting coverage here over the next week. For video producer Greg Peterson and Nate Klaus, I'm Sean Callahan for HuskerOnline.com.